Welcome along, everyone, to another Tune Under podcast. A little bit of a second go here because we kind of messed up on the first run around, but we'll be honest with you. We are the first and original Newcastle United podcast from the Southern Hemisphere. Joining me tonight is Dimmy down in Melbourne and Craig in his new abode. How is Mackay treating you, mate?
Mackay is significantly cooler than Cairns, which is always a blessing. Cairns is the hot hole of Australia, and yeah, it's been good. Weather's been a bit shit, bit overcast, but it's kept the temperature down, so I'm more than happy with that.
Yeah, no worries. You're settling in okay?
Perfect, mate. Thank you.
Nice. And Dimmy, how's things down there in Melbourne?
Not too bad, mate. It's always looking forward to a weekend where we've had a win last week. I can't wait for the next week to come along. So really pumped up to talk about this game and get ready for hopefully another 3 points.
Indeed. So one thing I wanted to kind of just touch on quickly, get you guys' opinion. Saw a few people on social media this week having a bit of a comment that apparently Callum Wilson has said that Eddie Howe has given him some reassurances that if he's fit, he's going to be the first choice to play through the middle. And the idea was that Isak would be probably then moved out if he was fit as well to play a little bit more on the left or the right to cut in. Now, I don't know how much of this is down to Callum Wilson and Eddie Howe doing his usual man management to kind of like, massage egos and keep everybody happy on the same page. I mean, it's something that we might not ever see anyway, given the fact that he's never 100% fit for the whole season anyway. But Dimmy, I'm going to start with you first on this. What do you make of that? And do you think that it's legitimate from Eddie Howe, or do you think that something's kind of just, this is something that's been through the grapevine for the club and it's just come out and, people are making more of it than they need to?
I think it's the honest truth from Eddie, to be honest, because Wilson obviously is in our best team when fit, and he can't play anywhere else but the number 9 position. So I think logic says that Wilson keeps the number 9 position, and when Isak's fit, he moves a bit wider, a bit more freedom. We did see him play that role from memory against Bournemouth. The last 20-odd minutes, he did move out wide. So I think that's a logical move from Howe. So I'm not too sure how truthful the comment is in terms of the social media, but I think it makes sense that Wilson can't play anywhere else but through the middle. So he would be through the middle, and when Isak is fit, he'll play out wide.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if you look at sort of Isak's historical goals that he scored, it seems to always be that he scored a lot of them cutting in and scoring them like from a wider position. Whether or not that's just like where he was playing at the time, I don't know, or if he would prefer to be through the middle. Craig, do you see him taking over on the left? Because he, I believe he's played there before, so he cuts in on his right and he can have a crack at goal. Do you see him taking over on the left-hand side from ASM, or do you think that they'll kind of swap Maxi and Isak to play on both wings and drop Miggy?
It's a tough call, isn't it? Because Isak, we've already seen, he's a proven goal scorer and he's a natural threat in that box, but so is Callum Wilson. And you can't drop your number 9. That's just a big no-go around these parts of the woods. Isak is the new boy in town, so he's got to be maybe given that Demba Ba role where he's just pushed out a little bit, and the main striker, i.e. Wilson, can be Cisse effectively. Maybe Wilson is the better finisher of the two, and that may be why. But I wouldn't be disappointed if Isak was out wide. But I would like to see him out left in ASM on the right, just so ASM doesn't have to cut in each time. Because he can actually cross the ball when he gets on his right foot. You just don't see it often enough, that's all.
Yeah, it'd be a nice problem for Eddie Howe to have, if anything. It's you want your best players on the pitch, and then you find a way that works. I mean, you don't kind of want to leave your better players on the bench anyway. So let's hope that everyone gets fit and gives Eddie Howe a massive headache, and we start scoring lots more goals because we've got a bunch of top end forwards on the pitch. So what I'd like to just touch on, obviously now we're approaching the anniversary of the takeover. We've had our podcast special out, so if everyone's listening to this or if they've listened to the previous one, please give us a thumbs up, give us a sub on YouTube. We're available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts as well if you can. That'd be great. But obviously, Craig is celebrating with a can tonight. I have not. I'm having a teetotal week this week, so I'll crack the cans open tomorrow night. But yes, we are approaching that caniversary, as is hashtagging around Twitter at the moment. But it's insane to think how far we've come in just such a short period of time. It doesn't feel like 12 months. I mean, I know this year has been a complete whirlwind for a lot of people. I mean, here in Australia, we've had floods, we've had COVID, we've had lockdowns, we've had that many public holiday weekends in a row. Like I lost track at one point. You know, I had surgery. You know, we've all been moving house and stuff like that. So it has been this whirlwind year. So it doesn't feel like 12 months. But I mean, Craig, you start us off. What's your kind of, you know, buzzing feeling of going into year 2 of the new owners?
Euphoric is one word, because it could have been so different. We could have been trying to plot a way back into the Premiership this time next season. Now we're trying to plot a way into Europe. It's the best thing that's ever happened to the club in modern day times, and possibly of all time, to be honest. You know, time will tell whether it'll pay off in the long run, but so far so good.
Indeed, and we've got a few stats to kind of run through while we're doing the Brentford preview, which this pod is actually going to eventually get to. I apologise for the ramble in the start, but we are a little excited. It is that sort of, you know, big tick of approval for the first year of ownership. So Demi, what have you made of it, and you know, sort of looking forward, what are your kind of expectations moving forward from now, with not just the owners, not just the money, but the manager, the infrastructure that's being put in place?
Yeah, like Craig, it is a bit of disbelief to think of where we were 12 months ago. I mean, if you're thinking where the game before we got taken over, it was Wolves away, it was dreary, we lost 2-1, we looked like absolute shit. Hendricks scored a goal when their keeper was lying down 10 metres away from goal. It was one of those weird days. And you thought, when are we ever going to get out of this funk? When is this club ever going to be something? When is it going to, when there's going to be hope is basically what, as a fan, you were thinking. And the fact that it went through a few days later was ridiculous. And now there's no limits on what we can do, to be honest. It's sky's the limit for us. It's obviously not going to be an overnight success, but we can start dreaming again, I think, and start believing that we could be one of the top teams in England and Europe, hopefully sometime in the future.
Oh, for sure. And I think it's kind of hammered home a little bit with the plight of West Brom at the moment, with our old incumbent manager that is pulling out the same old excuses. It's literally like cut and paste from previous interviews he did with us right at the death. So yeah, I mean, how fortunes can change in such a short period of time. So anyway, let's get on to the Brentford preview. It is another home game for Newcastle. I'm just going to pull up the previous head-to-head first. Here we go. Just turn that overlay off a little bit for us while we look on for everyone on YouTube. So games played. We've played 8 games against each other, won 2 games each. Brentford has lost 1 more game than us. 2 games lost. We've lost 1 game. We've drawn 5 and Brentford's drawn 4. Now, league position at the moment, we will get to the league table in a minute. We are just hovering above them, despite the fact that Brentford have actually started pretty well this season. We haven't scored as many goals, and we'll come on to, I'm quite sure, our old striker, who's banging form at the moment for Brentford and had his England call up. But our defense is literally rock solid at the moment. We've conceded far fewer goals, and considering the teams that we have played, I think that's actually pretty impressive as well. So, Demi, what are you making of the recent run of form? I mean, that kind of suggests that we're going to get another draw.
Yeah, look, if you take away the Fulham game, obviously you're thinking, yeah, every game we're drawing these days, but no, we are solid at the back, and it's a good foundation to build results if you're solid at the back. And Brentford are a bit more swashbuckling, up and down, can score goals but can concede goals. So I think this weekend's game, we'll get to it a bit later, but it will suit us, being the fact that Brentford won't just come and park the bus like Bournemouth did. So that potentially will suit us. And I think that the fact we've got that monkey sort of, so to speak, off our back last week against Fulham, I think that will open the shackles for us this weekend.
Yeah, hopefully. Craig, what's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it's going to be a very open game. Just like Dini said, they're not going to do a Bournemouth and just sit and park the bus, have 11 men behind the ball less than an hour into the game. And that is going to suit our style big time. And hopefully we've got ASM back, who is that proverbial key to unlocking that door, who we missed so badly against Bournemouth.
Yeah, we've kind of seen the last few games. I think we've missed that key player just to unlock the defenses if the opposition are sitting back and just trying to kind of see everything out for a draw. I mean, I'm not sure what Fulham were doing, down to 10 men, down a goal, and still trying to sit behind the ball. But that's last week, and I'm happy that they did, because that was a much needed 3 points. So, quick look at the table. Obviously, Arsenal sitting on top, Manchester City snapping at their heels, the only unbeaten team in the league at the moment, which is a little bit gutting because, save for, as Dimmy pointed out earlier on, a 98th minute winner by Liverpool, we would have been the only other team against other than Man City to have an undefeated record so far for the season, which would have been really nice to have. Spurs and Brighton making out the top four, which is really fair play to Brighton. They've lost their manager, they've lost some key players, and they just seem to keep on rolling. So for me, that's a really good sign, because the things that have been put in place at Brighton are obviously working. They're obviously doing really good things in terms of the progression of the club. And we now have their director of football. So you're hoping that this kind of, we end up as a Brighton with more money, so we can keep that success going and we can be sustained over a prolonged period of time. Chelsea, Man United, 5th and 6th. And now Chelsea, I fully expected to be up there. I still not 100% sure on why Tuchel got the boot. Seemed like a bit of a weird decision at the time. But we are pulling up into 7th spot at the moment. That's technically a European spot as we stand at the moment. We've played a game more than Man U, Chelsea, and Brighton. But look, we've held our own this season. Fulham just behind us on goal difference. Obviously, the shellacking that we handed out last weekend didn't do them any favors. But and then Brentford pulling in at 10th spot. They kind of had a decent start to the season, but it seems to have kind of tapered off a little bit. Craig, what's your thoughts on the table before we get into any of the stats that I'd like to go through? Because if you look at those, the goals for, goals against columns, we're doing really well in the goals against. We're sort of, apart from Everton, which is a real surprise, who have only conceded 7 goals. Not scoring any, obviously, but we're joint second fewest goals conceded on 8. So, but what do you make of the overall shape of the table? We're 7-8 games in now. We're starting to get to the point where we can actually start to talk about the league positions. We're not just sort of like after game 1 going, yeah, we're in the European spots.
Well, it's heavily congested. If you look between 5th and 11th? You've got a good number of teams there, all literally 3 points apart. So 1 win, 1 loss can dramatically bump you up the table a fair bit on that one. It's still early doors, as we know, to give any solid evidence to how the season may fall for a few teams. But on the face of it right now, I'm more than happy to be sat in 7th, 8 games in. Would I like to be higher up? Obviously, but could we be a lot worse off? We could be doing Leicester. So absolutely over the moon with how we're doing so far. And there's teams around us which have got a game in hand which could affect our position, but again, it's still too early to even contemplate how big of an impact that could have.
Yeah, Dimmy, speaking of like Leicester, they're struggling. They got a win on the board against Nottingham Forest, who looks like their experiment of buying an entire first squad for the first time back up in the Premier League is not paying dividends at this moment. 2 squads, yeah. It has been a little bit of a whirlwind market for them in the off-season. Does not look like it's paying off for them so far. But yeah, Leicester's got a win on the board. Madison, who we are looking at apparently still absolutely on fire for them at the moment. West Ham's starting to creep up the table now into 15th. Leeds are kind of still hovering around there. Everton got another win on the board, so they're kind of up into mid-table. But they've still only won 2 games. West Ham's only won 2 games. What's your thoughts, Demi, on just how the table's shaping up so far?
Like Craig said, I think if you offered us 7th after 8 games and being in that group, I think you'd be very happy where we're at. I think the fact that we're leading most of the other outside of Big 6 teams at the moment, that's a big plus. I think there's a league at the top where obviously we're not competing at the moment with your Arsenals and your Man Cities and Tottenhams, but there's a league in that middle to upper range that I think we can compete in, and if we can continue to maintain our lead or our gap in that area over the likes of your Brentfords, maybe West Ham, Brighton, obviously a little bit ahead of us, but even the teams around us. I mean, Fulham, we just battered them 4-1. They're no good. Brentford, we'll see how they are this weekend. Everton, don't rate them. Leeds, hot and cold. So even those teams around us at the moment, you're thinking we're well and truly a match, if not better than those teams. So you're happy where we are now, and we just hope we can kick on before the World Cup and make sure we secure a good spot right before the break.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, look, I mean, we've bought a whole new back 5 effectively. We've added to what was a relatively decent defense anyway. We've started to control the midfield, and we'll pull up these statistics now. But, you know, the fact that we're conceding so few goals, and no, we're not scoring as many as we'd like at the moment, but, you know, everything seems to be kind of progressing on. And as we've just said, look, 12 months on, we're looking at a completely different football club right now. Fulham came up, they were riding a high. I think for me the worry for that was the game last weekend was how quickly the heads dropped. They looked lost without Mitro up front. You know, yeah, you've got a man down, yeah, you've got a goal down, but they just didn't seem to have any fight in them. And whether or not that was us just dominating the game because that was what we were playing and we were all up for, all of our players were up for it, I don't know. But you know, as a team that's just been promoted and they started the season really well, they've been scoring goals. Now, it's easy to play when you're playing well. It's easy to kind of get up for games. It's if things aren't going your way in the Premier League, you can find yourself cut adrift really quickly if you let your heads drop and you stop that fight. Not every game's going to go that way. And I think from our point of view as a Newcastle fans, that's one of the big credits for Eddie Howe is how much he's got the team spirit going, and everyone's fighting for that shirt at the moment. It doesn't matter who steps in; everyone's like putting 100% effort in on that pitch, which is really good to see. So I want to quickly just touch on some of the stats, saying that we've changed a bit of our footballing style. You know, we're starting to develop this new identity on the pitch, and I think one of the things that I had noticed, and I was speaking with my dad who's over on holiday at the moment, and he was saying it's like teams aren't coming here to have, they're not sort of coming to St James's Park, they're not coming up against us and willing to just, you know, let's have a crack. They're there for the taking, and we just have to sit back and defend. Other teams are coming to us now and sitting back hoping for a point. So I think the sort of landscape has really shifted towards teams are worried about us now, and they know that we've got this threat, and it is for up to us to break them down. You know, look, we've seen games where teams have really defended deep, and they've just been happy to park the bus, and we've struggled. But that's for us to break down and find a way to still score goals. But it is really refreshing to see that sort of change in mentality, and not only just us as a club and the team, but also the opposition that are sort of starting to treat us a little bit more as a threat. And so David Batty 81 on Twitter the other day, I pulled this off, so credit to him for these stats that I'm pulling off. You know, we're 8 games in. We've had 4 games where we've had over 60% possession. Now, I don't think we had a single game last season under Steve Bruce, and I think there were probably still games under Eddie Howe where I don't think we ever got over that 50-odd% mark. So the possession alone is just showing the developing game of what we've got. And, you know, we're top 4 in crosses, corners, shots, and woodworks hit. So let's have a look through these off the Premier League website. So shots per team in the Premier League so far this season, we are sitting in 4th behind Man City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. We're ahead of Spurs You know, we've done really well there to be able to create those chances and be able to have those shots on target. So we're obviously doing something right. If you go along to the number of crosses that we've had, we're second to Liverpool in terms of the number of crosses. Now, obviously, we've discussed this off air. We're not scoring a lot from crosses, so I don't know if the quality's there, but the style of play that we're doing now, we're playing now, is clearly creating those chances. If we go on to the corners taken, we're topping the table in the number of corners, and we're not scoring from corners. It's really frustrating. But we're obviously getting a lot of these corners. Let's sort of look at the positives that we're creating these chances. We're getting the dominance in play up there with the top teams in the league. And finally, we're joint top with Liverpool in terms of hitting the woodwork, and that's a case of couple of inches the other side, and that's a goal instead of rebounding off. So it's these little things that kind of all point to this sort of big momentum shift in how we're playing. So Dimi, I'll let you sum up what you feel of that, but it's clearly showing that we're developing as a club, we're developing our style, we're starting to find our feet under Eddie Howe's system. But moreover, it's really exciting to think, a couple more quality additions in there that are able to put that last bit of quality in, convert those chances. It all should click, and it should send some shockwaves through the league. What's your thoughts on that, Demi?
Yeah, so you can probably sum up that soliloquy, which was very good, Mark, in probably 3 words. And we've changed ourselves now to front foot football. And a lot of those stats point to us being on the front foot, taking the game to the opposition, not waiting for the game to come to us and just hit on the break and hoping that Maxi dribbles 6 players and we score. We are actually forcing ourselves onto teams and forcing our will in games. I mean, we saw that in Forest. We broke Forest. Fulham with 10 men, we overwhelmed them. And we've been doing that even against Man City for half an hour. We willed ourselves onto Manchester City. Look how good they are at the moment. And took a 3-1 lead with half an hour to go. So that has been the big change, front foot football, and that's why these stats are as they are. And like you said, with a bit of luck and with a few less injuries to our front four, Maxi's missed games, Wilson's missed games, Isak's now been in and out. A bit of luck there, and we've got better quality up front to finish those chances. We could be in a different position, but it's all positive. The way we're playing is positive, and more front foot football, and like you said, better signings in the front third, and I think it's going to be very dangerous for the rest of the league. Oh
yeah, it's exciting to see those numbers, and that sums it up 100%. Is that front foot football? I like that term. It's something that we've lacked for so long, but it is good Absolutely. To see. Craig, what's your thoughts on those numbers?
Couldn't summarize it better than what Dimi just done, to be honest. It's good to see us in the top half of the table for the better part of the statistics, rather than being goals conceded, penalties conceded, that sort of thing. Normally we'd be top of the table for that type of shite. But on the positive metrics, it's really good to see us where we are.
Yeah, it's just kind of polar opposites to what we were last season. It's just fantastic.
Well, for how long? It's not even last season. It's when's the last time we've been playing? Probably not since under Sir Bobby in the early 2000s, where we're playing this type of football, taking the game to other teams. So
that one season under Pardew, that was it.
Yeah,
we weren't even. Even with that season, I don't even think we were swashbuckling in terms of dominating teams. I mean, we were good, but I don't
just had
think
very good players.
Yeah, I don't think it was as we're going to be having 70% or 60% of the ball and have 30 shots a game. I don't remember it being like that. I could be wrong.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the stat numbers were from that Pardew season in terms of possession, because it seemed like we were just very good at on the break. We would still be quite defensive minded. I mean, the famous thing with Ben Arfa was, Pardew fell out with him because he was playing him on the wing and expected him to track back. It's like, well, why would you get a player like Ben Arfa who's going to tear defenses apart and ask him to do defensive duties when it's clearly not going to happen? So, maximize his offensive threat, but that wasn't what Pardew was actually playing. So, he did well because he had Cabaye in midfield who was able to marshal that whole midfield area. He had Cisse and Barr scoring goals for fun. Teode as a midfield, like just dynamo. You know, that's the thing. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this continues to develop, and you know, obviously the more quality additions, and you know, you stick Maddison into that or a Diaby on the right hand side, you know, that's looking pretty scary. Just that extra little bit of quality going forward. You know, get a bit of cover in for left back maybe. We're a bit short there, but you know, let's soak this in because it's good times ahead, I think. Right then, back over to our table and into our team lineups for the weekend. So this is kind of what we think is going to happen. There's one minor change that we're going to kind of say right here and now is while Burns in that team there, I think we're all in agreement that it would be very unlikely for Botman not to make that squad. I think he's been fantastic whenever he has been playing. So we're kind of thinking Pope in goal is a no-brainer. Probably Botman and Shah partnering each other in the center of defense. Trippier and Target. If Target's back fit again, I think they pick themselves. Bruno in the middle with Willock and Joe Linton, hopefully coming back off the bench. ASM and Miggy on the wings with Wilson up front on his own. Now, you know, we're still pretty light in terms of what bench supply we've got in terms of those game-changing players, but that there is getting pretty close to our full strength side. I think our top strength starting 11 anyway. Craig, obviously, with the change of Botman in for Burn, that squad, you're pretty happy with that as our first team option. Obviously, we've got a couple of players that are still out injured. Joe Shelby's still out, but you know, you've got to be pretty happy with that if that's what our starting lineup is.
Yeah, absolutely. For our current available players, that is our strongest 11, I'd say. I can't imagine anybody else that would come in that would do a better job than who was already in that 11. Isak maybe for Wilson on his day, who knows? But yeah, you can't argue against that. If that's our starting 11 every game of the season, you wouldn't be unhappy.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Demi, like any changes that you would make to that? Obviously, with the Botman for Burn.
Probably not. I don't think you can drop Willock after his performance last week, and I think Joelinton is a walk-up starter when he's fit. So Longstaff's going to be the unlucky guy out of the midfield three to drop off. But besides that, Wilson picks himself. Miggy obviously in form, he picks himself, and it sounds like Maxi's on the mend and on the way back. So he obviously picks himself ahead of Murphy.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Howe starts Maxi though. It wouldn't surprise me if he did have him on the bench and bring him on. Howe is nothing if not a little bit cautious with bringing his players in. But I think if St. Maximin's fit, you've got to play him. It's as simple as that. If he's not 100%, then he's not going to make the squad. I don't think he's that type of player. You don't really want to sort of risk anything with him. One thing that I haven't heard of, so I don't know if you guys have heard anything through some of the channels, is how's Anderson doing in terms of his fitness?
He was on the bench. He's good to go.
Is he on the bench?
Yeah, half an hour. I think he done against Fulham. Yep. Wasn't his best performance, but he's still decent. I'd imagine he'd make the bench high.
I did not see him play. I watched the extended highlights on Optus for the Fulham game. So yeah, that's actually good to see, because I was getting like worried whether or not Howe was trying to protect him from the expectations and keeping him out of the limelight there. But you know, I think he's got to be getting more game time sooner rather than later. And you've got to be thinking, you know, if we get those new young players coming through, you want to see them getting regular game time. And he's done nothing, for me anyway, he's done nothing to dissuade any kind of sort of reliance on him to come in and do a job. He's looked really assured, which I think we're all a little bit concerned about. Big step up from League Two up into the Premier League, but he's taken to it like a duck to water. It's great to see. Mm-hmm. So onto the Brentford side. Late change. Their captain apparently has a hamstring injury. Craig let me know before this podcast. So that's actually quite a nice little change at the back for us. Hopefully it is something that we can capitalize on. So we're looking at maybe Raya in goal, Henry, me, Pinnock and Aja. I feel like I'm channeling my
I
feel like I'm channeling my inner Lee here, not being able to pronounce names, but it's all good. Baptiste, Pereira, and Jensen in midfield with Damsgaard, Tony, and Mbeumo. I told you, it's like I haven't had enough sleep. So obviously the big thing for Newcastle fans is watching Ivan Toney tearing up the league this season, being in fine form, scoring goals for fun, got his England call up, which was rightly so as well. It's one of those things where, you pick your players that are on form, but just because he's getting picked because it's overwhelming that he has to be, doesn't mean that Southgate's going to actually play him, which is a bit of a shame. But, he's banging the goals in. He's obviously the one to watch. He seems to be pretty keen on trying to prove us that, we let him go. But he, in fairness, I've seen interviews with him where he's been, I probably wasn't at the right frame of mind. I wasn't really in the right form. I don't blame them. I mean, I probably wouldn't have kept me around either if I was them at the time. So he seems to be pretty reflective on it. I think maybe he's one of those players that needed a kick up the arse, get sent down a league to kind of focus him and go, oh, actually, yeah, you know what? I haven't actually made it yet. So back to the drawing board. I'm going to really apply myself. And fair play to him. He could have gone one or two ways. He could have really just gone, well, that's it. Then I'm not going to try. But no, he's really proved all of his doubters wrong. I'm really pleased for him. Dimmy, what's your make of that side? Obviously, they're not exactly the most defensive-minded side in the world. So, what do you kind of make of us being able to break them down, and what threats are they going to pose to us?
So I think they do possess some dangers for us. They do have a lot of pace in that lineup. I mean, Tony's very good on the spin, and he did cause us a lot of problems in the corresponding game last season when we drew 3-3. I think that was supposed to be Howe's debut, but then he had COVID and he wasn't there.
Yeah.
And also Darlow didn't have his best performance that day, and I remember chucked sort of one or two in, so that wasn't great. But no, they do have a lot. They do a lot of pace, and they do chances and cause teams trouble. Obviously, danger man is. I think I just lost myself there.
I think we might have lost No, yeah.
I'm back. The danger man is obviously Tony up front, but with Batman and Cher at the back, I'm pretty comfortable with they'll be able to deal with him.
Yeah, I think he is actually quite dangerous in the air. So having Botman in there is probably a good thing. One of the big criticisms of Dan Burn is his lack of pace. And I think Tony would definitely exploit that. So it is a big thing to have Botman back there instead of Dan Burn, I think, for that reason alone. Having Target in at left back, I think probably gives us a little bit more assurance defensively, but also probably more counter-attack opportunities because he is better going forward than what Dan Burn can be on the left. And so that, we might be able to exploit their attacking threat to be able to sort of get space in behind on our own. And obviously, if that involves Maxi on the left there as well, then that's going to be a huge bonus for us, I think. Craig, do you agree with Dimmy? Like that's probably where their main threat's going to come from, just their pace in attack with Tony as their focal point.
Yeah, so just had a little look. That front three there, Damsgaard, Tony, and Mbeumo, they've got 8 games in. They've got 10 goals combined between them, goals and assists all in. So that's pretty productive. But Tony has got 8 of those 10. So if we can keep him quiet, then there's a good chance we'll keep the rest of them quiet as well. So he's got to be the key man that we maybe get Botman just to do his absolute best on that one, and hopefully has a quiet game.
No, for sure. Do you see anything that defensively they're lacking in terms of what we can pose a threat going forward?
Ben Mee, potentially with his age, he's just turned 33. So he's not going to be the quickest out of the box. Pinnock, I'm not too sure on, to be honest. And Henry and Aya, they both started the game against us back in Brentford earlier on last season, where we won 2-0 down at theirs. And that was quite a commanding, comfortable win. That was a Christian Eriksen's return game, I think that one was. But yeah, we had a comfortable win there, and it's a similar team that we're putting out in terms of attacking threat, but defensively was significantly more solid than the same team that we put out. So I think it could be a fairly comfortable game, let's hope.
Yeah, Dimmy, anything to add to that before we get into score predictions?
Yeah, good summary there from Craig. I do worry, not worry, I think worry is not the right word, but their fullbacks do bomb on a lot. So I think it's going to be a big game for Miggy and ASM to be tracking back. I know Henry does like to get into the box and bomb on and cut back. So another probably potential concern that we should be noting is their attacking fullbacks and making sure we pin them in as much as we can.
Yeah, I think if we can dominate the midfield, I wonder if we can, control the game and then our fullbacks become the threat, and then it forces them onto the back foot a little bit more, or it's only going to take a couple of attacks to kind of expose them being caught up the field for us to kind of hopefully capitalize. So no, we'll see how that goes, but yeah, I'm hopeful that it's going to probably be a case of whoever plays better on the day in terms of those overlapping wingback type fullbacks. We obviously know what Trippier can do, so you got to be hopeful that him and Target are going to be the ones that can kind of get more out of their game, and we've got the midfield enforcers to be able to track back a little bit more, like in Joe Linton and Bruno, that are going to kind of create that sort of competition in midfield so that they don't have an easy time of things. So I'm going to lead off with Dimmy. What's your score prediction for this one?
Score prediction by Nostradimmy is 2-0. Callum Wilson will score 1, and I'm going to go with a first goal for Big Sven Botman. I think he's been getting close with some of his headers.
Close, yeah. That
goal from Longstaff was a ripping save by Leno. I think that was heading in. So he does get himself into some good positions, and I think the big man's going to put one into the back of the net this week.
Hope you're right. I really do. Craig, what's your prediction?
I'm going 3-0 with the mercurial Miggy Almiron scoring the first goal.
Excellent. I'm going to be a little bit disappointing here because I'm going to predict that Brentford are going to score, but I think we'll be 3-1 winners. I think Tony will score, but I think we'll have enough on the day. So
I'll take that.
I will, as long as I'm still at the point where a win's a win, and I don't really care where it comes from. It gets us further up the table, and the way things are looking, we are the best of the rest, sort of thing. And I'm happy to say that it's really exciting times. So yeah, hopefully whoever's doing the review pod is talking about another 3 points in the bag, and that we're scraping our way to a European spot. So let's fingers crossed with that one.
Keegan's not on the review pod, hopefully, because that means we've already lost or drew. So he can piss off. He can do the next preview.
It'll be a draw if Keegan's doing the review. So it's like we should have found this out before we did our score predictions.
We should have.
It's like Keegan's on review. It's like, it's 1-1. No, that's okay. He's going to break his duck even if he is on. I feel 3 points.
Law of averages. The old law of averages. The old law of averages.
Yeah, sun shines on a dog's ass once in a blue moon anyway. Right then, nice short one for us tonight. Not a great deal more happening in the world of Newcastle. I hope everyone's got their cans ready to celebrate the takeover anniversary, and I will be having a beer with everyone in spirit tomorrow night. So thanks very much, guys. Appreciate that, and thanks for everyone who's been watching or listening. And as I said before, give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, keep an eye on us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. And we thank everybody. It's still buzzing that we're over 1,000 subs now. So yeah, we're definitely cruising along. It's been a great 12 months for us almost as well. So right then, I will take that off now, and I will catch up with you guys later. Thanks very much, guys.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers, mate.